Hello Tyne, and welcome to one of the first videos of me preparing for Preptober. Today is an extension of a video that I put out a long time ago about like a writer's notebook and really getting prepared to write. So today is just all about getting ready for Nanowrimo. So let's just jump straight into it. In my old video, I had a 3-color notebook where I wrote out everything separately. I have this new, really nice, like leather moleskin notebook that I love, and today I'm just going to be talking about what I kind of write out throughout the entire page and some other things that you should include before you're writing just to make sure you have everything planned out and can really have the best writing experience possible. So at the top of the page, I really like to write down what inspired me to write this. Like, what was the initial idea that I really loved? And this point is something that it's really good to come back to over time, just throughout everything. It's the thing that drew you to write it in the first place. So it might be like, oh, this one dialogue line was just so good. Or it could be a setting or an event, a plot point that you're really looking forward to writing. And then whenever later you're running out of steam, because we usually all do at some point when we're writing a novel, you can go back and you can be like, oh yeah, I just loved that character. I loved that character voice. I was so excited to write that. And then see how you can bring that feeling back into your writing. The next thing that you're going to want to write down is the tone of your story. Is it a scary story? Is it a funny story? How do you want your reader to feel when they're going through it? And it's going to inform, like, once you decide on your tone, kind of the word choice you use. It might have some sway over your characters or over your setting, and just the way you describe everything might shift a little bit when you're trying to convey a certain tone. And alongside that is also theme. If you already know when you're starting a novel, I often don't, but if you know what the character is going to be learning over the story, or if you know, like, oh, this is a story about grief, about death, about new beginnings, you might want to write that down just as something to reference throughout writing your novel. And then you'll want to write down a lot of different things about your character. You'll want to write down the physical description as much as possible, as well as other things that you'll want to reference throughout the whole story process. Things that they want, things that they need, things they fear, things they hate, the people they love, a lot of the different things that you're kind of going to be referencing and want to go back and be like, oh yeah, what was that key part of his personality? And in addition to just some of the things you'll want to reference so that it's not like halfway through you're trying to figure out what the character's eye color is, but instead can be more than that and can really help you to develop voice. You may want to include some character sheets. There's plenty of those online. I have some of my own on my website, and I also usually include some free write pages, which is just writing in the character's voice, even if it's not a main character, writing in that character voice for 3 or 5 pages so you really get a sense of what they're like. After that, I really like to put down a lot of things about my setting. When you have a clear defined setting and settings that you come back to throughout the book, it's a lot easier to immerse your reader in the story by including different sounds that are going on in the background, by including smells, and just having consistent like furniture and layout that they're familiar with, so then you don't have to keep re-describing new places, and it can really ground your story down. Now you may want to do this next bit in like a Google Doc with bullet points or on like flashcards, and that's essentially writing down different plot points. So any kind of big change. Any change in goals, any change in emotion, like any new pertinent information that comes up, new characters, different subplots, any kind of like emotional turning point at all, anything that you think would be a really good scene, even if it's a really bad scene, write it down somewhere. Even if you don't want to go and plot out your whole story, having a list of scenes that you're interested in writing can be a really good thing to pull from when you're like later in the story, kind of like dead in ideas in the middle section right before the climax where you're like, I don't know what's gonna happen. Oh yeah, I remember I was gonna write that one really funny scene where the character was chased by dogs. And just kind of having some of those scenes or a bullet point list of your plot can be incredibly helpful. Another thing that you may want to be a Google Doc or on your phone is kind of reference material. So things that you're referencing, like if it's historical or if you're doing any kind of research, having those links so you can get back to them later. having any photos or quotes or books that you're reading, anything you may want to find later or use as inspiration, just anything that really inspires you to keep working on this book is really going to come in handy and might also create some ideas. I know I talk about like Pinterest mood boards for your book quite a bit, and this is kind of an extension of that. And then the last thing, and probably the most important thing that you're going to write down in your novel, is your goals and what time you're going to be planning. You're going to put this right at the very end of your notebook after you've written out everything else on the last page or wherever you want, maybe at the top of every page, your goal and when you're going to be writing. I know if I'm working on the first draft of a novel for more than 6 months, it is going to suck. The first part, my writing style will be entirely different from the last part. I'll have forgotten the character motivations, and I'll just never end up editing it or wanting to release it at all. So I always say within 2 months of whatever my start date is, I'm going to have completed this novel. And then also writing down what time you're gonna write with a trigger event. So the trigger event might be, as soon as I finish brushing my teeth in the morning, I'm gonna go and sit down to write. Or it could be, after I put the kids to bed, then I have 45 minutes before bed, and if nothing else, I'm just gonna sit down, open up the Google Doc, and look over everything that I've written thus far. Having that trigger event is going to remind you every single day, hey, I should be writing. Or even if it's only a once a week thing, like after I go to soccer practice, then it's still going to remind you, oh yeah, I need to be working on my book. And then it's going to encourage you to keep writing. And having that blocked out time that you don't compromise, that you don't give to anyone else, is actually going to make sure that your book gets done. With those things in mind, I hope that this video helped you. If you'd like to interact with this video by liking, commenting, subscribing, anything like that, the YouTube algorithm is going to show you more writing content and guilt you into further writing. Or if you're interested in learning about more Preptober things and getting ready to make your book and planning out your book, I have a lot of things on plot, on character development, and on setting that are coming out in the next few months, along with like Preptober and Nanowrimo. With all that, I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye!